Yo, Z. I think Z's busy. Should we just get on with it and we can screen record it another time?
The screen recording started. Let's go.
Wicked. Let's go. So guys, in order to understand the space of cryptocurrency, we need to understand where it comes from, which is we need to understand what actually is a blockchain. So let's go. The blockchain is a database that gets distributed to every computer on the network instead of connecting to a central server. The database contains the data from every transaction that takes place on a network, and every time a new transaction occurs, it gets added to the database. So essentially, the blockchain is a distributed ledger which is open to anyone, and also once the data is recorded, it is very difficult to change it. Now, it's all well and good knowing what a blockchain is, but we need to understand the process of how it actually works. So in order to do that, we'll talk through the elements of every block. So now, the elements of a block contain data, hash of the block, and the hash of the previous block, known as the previous hash. So, the three elements, the data, the hash, and the previous hash. So the data stored depends on the type of blockchain. For example, in Bitcoin's blockchain, the data that's stored, sorry, just give me 1 second, guys. 1 second. Hold on. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so we're talking about the elements. Now, the data store depends on the type of blockchain. So, for example, Bitcoin's blockchain will store details about the transactions such as the sender, receiver, and the amount of coins. So in this example, the sender, if CryptoBoy was to send 10 BTC to Cryptic, we will have the sender as CryptoBoy, the receiver as Cryptic, and obviously the amount of coins sent. Now, a block also contains a hash. This identifies a block and all of its content. So all the data will be in the hash. Also, it's unique, so you can think of it as like a thumbprint, for example. Very unique. So this is what a hash looks like. Now, changing something in the block will alter the hash. So that's very useful for detecting changes in the block. The third element is very important actually. So the hash of the previous block, previous hash, allows the chain of blocks to be created and makes the blockchain secure. So as you can see over here, we have 3 blocks, 1, 2, and 3. Now block number 3 points to 2 and 2 points to 1. That means, so we have a hash here for block number 3, that's the current hash. Then the previous hash confirms that this and this is linked and information is correct. And in order to go further back, we will have the previous hash over here confirming that the data is valid. Now, the genesis block cannot point to a previous block, as obviously is the first one. Now, if you were to tamper, for example, with a second block, and you change this 3LFK to 4JKF, you will instantly know that any of the following hash of the block, this will cause the hash of the block to change, which will make block 3 and all of the following blocks invalid, as they no longer store a valid hash of the previous block. Meaning the previous hash here would not match this one if this was changed to 4JK or whatever you please. This is what allows the blockchain to be secure. This is not the only way the blockchain is secure. The security of a blockchain comes from hashing. consensus methods such as proof of stake and proof of work. And also, as a blockchain runs on a decentralized network of computers called nodes, this enables a form of consensus, peer-to-peer confirmation that can drive faster and more secure transactions. I'll talk about proof of stake and proof of work in the next slide. So the combination of speed, security, and transparency has not only enabled the growth of cryptocurrencies worldwide, but many other industries are now actually exploring blockchain's use cases as well. Use cases we will talk about next week. So, consensus mechanisms. Proof of work and proof of stake are both consensus mechanisms. Consensus is what solves the problem of digital money's double spending, which allows the consensus mechanisms to maintain the integrity of a blockchain. Proof of work. Proof of work is a method of adding fresh blocks of transactions to the blockchain of a cryptocurrency. In this scenario, the job entails creating a hash. We spoke about what a hash is. So it's a lengthy string of characters that matches the current block's target hash. So as I showed you in the previous slide, this hash will have to match this hash in order for it to be valid, and so on. Then you have proof of stake. Proof of stake is a way of assuming blockchain integrity by preventing users of a cryptocurrency from minting coins they did not actually earn. To validate transactions, proof of stake employs a random selection of miners. We'll get to understand what miners are further down our education process. Ethereum plans to switch to proof of stake in order to make the platform more scalable and minimize network energy use. So currently, Ethereum is using proof of work, and they plan to change very soon. So let's go through transaction. So if Sophia wanted to buy a product from James using Bitcoin, so Sophia wants a product, James has the product. The transaction is done through Bitcoin. She uses a private key and signs a message with the amount of Bitcoins and James' address, requesting a transaction. The transaction is then requested by Sophia. Sophia is bundled into a block with other transactions. The block is broadcasted to all mining nodes in the Bitcoin network. Then the network of nodes validating Sophia's transaction using algorithms in the process called mining, which we'll talk about later. The first miner to validate a new block for the blockchain receives a portion of the Bitcoin as a reward.
Hello?
The transaction is complete and the new block is added to the blockchain. The block is permanent and cannot be modified. James receives his Bitcoin from Sophia, and Sophia can then receive a product. That's just a basic idea of how the actual blockchain transaction works in relation to cryptocurrencies. So in conclusion, think of a blockchain as a book containing a list of transactions that all members of a group or network need to see. Every member or node, that's the technical term in our education. So every member or node of the network has their own copy of the book. Now each page of the book is a block of data. Every page of the book is identified by a unique page number called a hash. I hope all this is becoming relevant from the previous slides. So, and the first entry on each page is the hash of the previous page. The first entry is the chain that links the pages or blocks of transactions together. So I hope you guys understand how a blockchain works, the elements of a block, data, hash and previous hash, how they link together, how the data works, how the actual hash works, and what the previous hash's purpose is. What makes the blockchain so secure, and the consensus mechanisms. Next week, we will talk about why we will use a blockchain, problems with monetary system, solutions through the blockchain, then centralized versus decentralized. Hope you all have a good evening, guys. Take care of yourselves, and we'll move on with the next segment of this stream.